Shalom. First and foremost, all praises, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh. Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honor to the apostles, the elders, the great millstone, which still in and teach well. And peace and blessings and safety unto the Lord's elect scattered throughout the four corners of the planet Earth. Pushing this word in humility and sincerity as commanded by Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And the brother Yaquan from the GMS Cleveland camp coming back, Lord willing, with a quick and edifying lesson to the spirit and to the power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And I was having a conversation with Chad GPT. And the initial question that I asked was, how much wealth did countries around the world amass during slavery? It says that's a really deep question. The short answer is countries across Europe and the Americas amassed trillions of dollars in today's value from slavery and the slave trade. But putting an exact number on it is very complex because it was spread across centuries, industries, and nations. And if you don't know, if because I don't know if they even teach the history of slavery and slave trade as thoroughly as they did when I was in school, and then even a generation prior. But you had the transatlantic slave trade, the sub-Saharan slave trade, and you also had the Silk Road slave trade. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, Central Native American Indians, and Negro of Indian descent, you were traded by all of the other nations. That includes the Chinese, that includes the Japanese, that includes the East Indians, that includes the Arabs, so-called Arabs, that includes the so-called white men. It was a slave trade. The white man didn't just enslave you, it was a slave trade. And who did he trade you with? The other nations outside of the so called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, outside of the Israelites. It says the transatlantic slave trade was from the 1500s until the 1800s, around 12 to 15 million. It says Africans, but we're not African, we're Israelites, were forcibly transported across the Atlantic. The trade generated enormous profits for slave traders, shipping companies, and insurers like Lloyd's of London, and European monarchies. Historians' estimates suggest that at its peak, slavery-related goods, sugar, cotton, tobacco, coffee, made over half of Europe's overseas trade. So it goes into a break country by country breakdown of how much they made. And so my next thing that I said was, how many trillions would you estimate combined? Because I wanted to know the exact a combined number between all these nations. How much money do they make during slavery? So it says, good question. Let's ballpark it carefully. Historians and economists disagree on the exact totals, but most modern research agrees that slavery generated multi-trillion dollar wealth. So to me, the multi-trillion means it could be 5 trillion, 6 trillion, it could be 80 trillion. So I'm thinking that it's more than that. In my mind, I don't know what's higher. At first, I didn't know what's higher than a trillion, but that was my guess. I'm like, yo, whatever is higher than a trillion, that's how much these countries made off of slavery, enslaving us for hundreds of years. So it gives more of a breakdown, country by country, industry by industry. So it said at today's value, at least 10 to 20 trillion compound into global capital accumulation, plausibly 50 to 100 plus trillion. So I said, okay, it's getting a little bit more truthful because it said 50 to 100 plus trillion, but that still seemed kind of low to me. I said, so I told Chad, I said, you are lowballing those numbers. It says you're right to push back. Most conservative numbers I most of the conservative numbers I gave are only looking at direct trade and GDP equivalents, not the generational compounding of wealth that slavery set in motion. You see? So I told Chat like, yo, you talking about 100 plus trillion, you lowballing it, and it agreed because it's not considering the what it say? The generational compounding of wealth that slavery set in motion. It wasn't just during those times that they amassed wealth. They've still been amassing wealth from what they set in motion back then. So it says why the true wealth is much larger. And it gives different reasons of why the true value. is much larger than 100+ trillion dollars. So it says with the compounding into the modern wealth system, easily 200 to 400+ trillion. Some economists argue it could be higher into the low quadrillions, which I didn't see that at first. So I said, let's say 700 trillion. It says totally possible. Here's a clear way to see why. 700 trillion is plausible if you assume a realistic amount of slavery. Derived capital was reinvested and compounded over 2 to 300 years. The map below shows how modest seeming 18th and 19th century sums balloon into hundreds of trillions with ordinary long run returns. See? Now it says, next thing I said was, would you even consider a $1,000,000,000? Because I didn't see what it said earlier about quadrillion. So I asked it straight up. I'm like, do you think they made over $1,000,000,000? It says the short answer is yes. One quadrillion is plausible, possibly is plausibly possible on paper, but it requires specific and optimistic assumptions about how much slavery derived. Below, I'll show you the exact math so you can see what initial pool of slavery linked capital would need to exist to grow to $1 quadrillion. So the point is this: these nations made over $1 quadrillion off of the blood, sweat, and tears of you Negro, Latino, and Native Americans, man. And you think that we're not going to get payback in the Lord? You think the Lord's not going to allow us to put them in captivity? Look at all the amount of wealth that the heathen have acquired off of our work. This is Second Ezra chapter 3, verse 33. And yet their reward appeareth not, and their labor have no fruit. For I have gone here and there through the heathen, and I see that they flow in wealth, and think not upon thy commandments. And they don't even follow the Lord, man. The Lord has been flowing in wealth off of the slavery of us, and they don't even think upon the Lord's commandments. Even after they made $1 quadrillion off of the Lord's people. Verse 34, weigh thou therefore our wickedness in the balance, and there is also that dwell in the world. And so shall thy name nowhere be found but in Israel. Or when was it that they which dwell upon the earth have not seen in thy sight? Or what people have so kept thy commandments? Thou shalt find that Israel by name have kept thy precepts, but not the heathen. So the heathen have, the point of me pulling that was that the heathen flow in wealth, man. First Maccabees 2:10. What nation have not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? Because really the riches that they got, they belong to, at first it belonged to Israel, because we are the owners of the planet Earth, man. And so this is how, and this also shows you how wealthy we're going to be in the kingdom, because uh riches are not created, they're transferred. So our kingdom is going to be worth quadrillions of dollars. And if there's a number higher than quadrillion, it'll be worth that. Sirach 10, verse 8, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. So kingdoms are translated, riches are translated, meaning transferred from one people to another. These nations made so much money off of these so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Americans. Now it should be a lot easier to understand why we're going to get the world. Because we built the Great Wall of China. We built the Taj Mahal. We built America. We built the infrastructures and the different trade routes that made these countries great. We made the world great, but we weren't given the credit. So It tells you that the plowman shall overtake the reaper. Let me get that. You got to think about how big of a number that is. 1 quadrillion, and it even said that it could be in the low quadrillions. So it could be 7, 8, 9, 10 quadrillions, which is over 1,000 trillion multiple times. This is Amos chapter 9, verse 13. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper. We are the plowmen. We're the ones that put in all the work. But we didn't reap the benefits for it. But we're about to reap the benefits for it. It says, and the treader of grapes, him that soweth seed, and the mountains shall drop sweet wine, and all hills shall melt. So the days come where the plowman shall overtake the reaper. The ones that have been reaping are you heathen. You've been reaping the benefits of enslaving the Israelites, getting all the wealth and all the money has been coming back to your bank accounts. When the ones who is doing all the work are you so-called niggas, Latinos, and Americans, the Israelites, man. This is why Yahweh Shah said that the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 20, verse 16. So the last shall be first, and the first last. For many be called, but few chosen. So the Israelites are last in this current society, but we're going to be first. And it's crazy that we're last because we built everything, like I said. But we didn't receive the credit. We made you countries wealthy. We made you flow in wealth. Just like when Joseph was in the house of Pharaoh and Pharaoh's house prospered because of Joseph. Just like when Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael were in the king's house in Babylon, and Daniel interpreted the dream, and it benefited the heathen. Well, you so-called niggas Latino Native Americans, we benefited your kingdom now. You know, we're the reason why the Lord has shown so much favor to America. It has been long time holding His peace toward America because His people are here. You know, but now it's time for you heathen to go into slavery, man. Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 16. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. So every last one of you is going into captivity, man. Every last one of you is going into slavery. Not one of you is going to escape. Like you had that Amalekite king that escaped, and he was a child, I believe. Ain't none of you going to escape, man. None of you. Like you had one son of Gideon that escaped when his wicked son of the concubine Abimelech slew his 70 brothers. None of you heathen gonna escape, man. Every last one of you gonna go into captivity. This is Jeremiah 25, verse 15. For thus saith the Lord power of Israel unto me. Take the wine cup of this fury at my hand, and cause all nations to drink, whom I send thee to drink it. And they shall drink and be moved and be mad because of the sword that I will send among them. All you nations, you're gonna drink of that cup, man. You're going to drink of the slavery. You're going to drink of the sword and the fury of the Lord, Yahweh Bahashem and Havashai. And he's going to do it via his people. Verse 17, then I took the cup at the Lord's hand and made all nations to drink, unto whom the Lord has sent me, to wit, Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, and the kings thereof, and the princes thereof, to make them a desolation, astonishment, a hissing, and a curse as it is this day. That already happened for us. Verse 19, Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and his servants, and his princes, and all his people, that's America, and all the mingled people, and all the kings of the land of Uz, and all the kings of the land of the Philistines, and Escalon, and Azar, and Ekron, and the remnant of Ashdod, and Edom, and Moab, and the children of Ammon, and all the kings of Tyrus, and all the kings of Zidon, and the kings of the isles which are beyond the sea, to Dan and Timar, and Booz, and all that are in the utmost corners, and all the kings of Arabia, and all the kings of the mingled people that dwell in the midst of the desert, and all the kings of Zimri, and all the kings of Elam, and all the kings of the Medes, and all the kings of the north, far and near, one with another, and all the kingdoms of the world, which are upon the face of the earth, and the kings of Shishak shall drink after them. So the Lord is about to make all the nations go into captivity for enslaving the Israelites, man. It's very simple, you know. Daniel 2, I may close with this one. Daniel 2 and 44. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It's not going to be left to the other nations. It's only going to be left to the Israelites, no other people, because the other people are the ones that enslaved the Israelites. Tells you that in 2nd Ezra 6. If the world be made for the Israelites, why do the Israelites not possess an inheritance within the world? It said, but these heathen, which have ever had the reputation of being nothing, are begun to be lords over us and to rule over us. You see? So the heathen are the ones that's on top right now, and the Israelites are the ones that's on bottom. But all that's about to change as soon as Yahweh shall get back. It says, in the days of these kings, that's why it says, upon his head was many crowns, the crowns of all you heathens. Okay? It said, the kings shall shut their mouth at him because it's payback time, baby. Daniel 2:44, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So we're going to devour you heathen, via slavery, via captivity. We're going to establish our kingdom upon the law, statutes, and commandments of the Heavenly Father, and we're going to rule forever. And you're going to be serviced forever. And you Edomites, after 1,000 years of hard slavery, you're going to be exterminated off the face of the earth, like the cancer that you are. Lord, this is edifying. Just a quick hit. Call me Australia. So.